SD Vlogs offers perspectives and analysis on South African current events. This very first edition is a three-way news analysis discussion based on the close reading of news over the last 6 months about land invasions in South Africa. For similar analysis and blogs on a variety of topics, visit stellenboschtransparency.co.za.
This topic has to be centered around the history of South Africa. The issue of land invasions cannot be seen in isolation. Over the last 20 years, we haven't seen that these disparities and unequalness being addressed. We have to start to make compromises so that we give opportunities. If we don't, using the current trajectories, we're going to continue to see land invasions, particularly in urban areas, and we're going to see the number of informal settlements rise dramatically over the next few years.
The news articles that we analyzed spoke a lot about the anti-land invasion units. They act in quite a brutal kind of fashion, right? Of what I can see in the reports.
My understanding is that the Red Ants are a private operation, and that they are hired on an outsourced basis by private and public authorities.
I mean, large amounts of capital are used on an annual basis. I mean, you've seen examples in the Western Cape, Gauteng, where properties are being protected from land invasions, and huge amounts of money have been spent to protect these properties.
And my concern is, that's where my mind goes to, that, preventing of land invasion is quite lucrative, right? Quite a lucrative
Absolutely.
Business to be in, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Governments are budgeting for land invasions, which this is the level of ridiculousness we're getting into.
What we're talking about needs to be contextualized in terms of a class struggle over housing shortages and the different conflicting narratives that are related to the metropolitan authorities in the case of these articles, and what we know, what you can tease out from the articles, because they don't actually tell you much about the points of view of the land invaders. You have a narrative that is very focused on privatization, commercialization, and that tends to criminalize land invasions.
Unless we have this myopic view that the city should look as only with like formalized buildings that meets a particular standard that you and I as Westerners understand. So I think that kind of shift is a deep shift, and we need to negotiate that.
What was also coming from the reports was that the people are actually now hut full of waiting for houses. I mean, there were some reports of people waiting as far back as 1997. There's probably people that have waited even longer. So I think we've got to the point now where people are actually just over houses. They're at the point now where it says, just give us the land and we'll build our own houses.
That's the way that it's going to proceed, with government support and guidance and facilitation, or without. And I think the role that government can play here is really to open up and start this channel of communication with communities and with potential people that wanting to acquire a piece of land and build on it incrementally.
And maybe I just want to make this point. You cannot really make proposals at the government level without moving into the macroeconomy and into the macro financing area, and addressing the question of where do you get bulk, cheap money for government to actually do this in the long run. And it takes you into an area of government-owned banks and government-created money, which is a different mindset. Political parties generally have not developed their mindset to include a public bank that creates money at zero interest to actually fund utilities and socially necessary services and development in the interest of economic development. Maybe there's an opportunity for an upward filtering of that force in the form of ideas, to a very different way of thinking about macro financing.
And these are the kinds of shifts that we need to see in the policy and in the policy implementation, particularly for human settlements.
So I think the councils and the local government structure itself, as it currently works, is incompatible with what we're talking about. And I think the municipal structure is part of that problem also, the municipal officials. But, it is not an easy, problem that you can put your finger on that and solve that and the rest falls in place. Like anything in reality, it's got multi-causal roots, okay?